on the situation in Venezuela, let's bring in David Smilde, professor at Tulane University and expert on Venezuela. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We know Maduro's vice president, Delcy Rodriguez, has been put in charge now. The US now says she's willing to work with them. Does she have a choice? And how will this be received by her entourage?
Well, yeah, that's a good question. It doesn't seem like she has a choice, and Trump basically said that they are going to launch a second wave if they don't, if Delcy Rodriguez and her government do not do what the U.S. wants, and so that sort of suggests a level of gunboat diplomacy with the Trump administration maintaining the military operation off of the Venezuelan coast, just in case things don't happen the way the U.S. wants, and so. Delcy Rodriguez yesterday, after the Trump press conference, actually, had her own meeting with her advisors. The whole government was there, and she basically maintained the line of Nicolas Maduro, saying that they're willing to negotiate with the United States in terms of respect, but saying that this was an outrage and that Nicolas Maduro needed to be returned, and so. What people are speculating, people don't really know if she's being defiant or whether this is basically she's playing to her base. What is clear is that the U.S. Marco Rubio said immediately after that, "Oh, we're not going to pay attention to what they say, but what they do." And significantly, this morning, the Federal Aviation Administration lifted the ban on flights in the Caribbean, which suggests there is no second wave. At least in the short term or in the medium term. So I think this is going to play out. We're going to have to see what degree of negotiation and agreement there is between the Trump administration and the government that's left in Venezuela.
We know Rodriguez has been in charge of oil in the country. She's seen by many as being quite business friendly. Is that why she was the US's pick, despite being such an ally to Maduro?
Well, she's the vice president, and so constitutionally, she would be the next in line. So she's the logical one. I'm not sure if that was the U.S. pick, but as you say, it does sort of make sense. She is business friendly. She's not really a moderate, as many have said, in terms of, I think of her sort of like a new authoritarian, the type of authoritarian that's open to business, likes open markets, allows some democratic freedoms while harassing the opposition and harassing opponent politicians. She's not quite a Democrat, but she's a little bit more modern. And so I think that fits with what the U.S. wants. The U.S. sort of wants a neo-colonial relationship in which they'll have privileged access to Venezuelan resources and sort of Venezuela firmly in its corner. I'm not sure they're going to get that with Delcy Rodriguez, but I think that is the plan right now.
And David, what does all of this mean for the opposition? I mean, Trump quite publicly sidelined Maria Corina Machado during his press conference. Is there still a way in for her?
Well, that was probably the biggest shock of that press conference, and that really left the opposition reeling. It was telling that many of them, the first reaction was they thought Trump had misspoken, that he had sort of said Delcy Rodriguez when he met Maria Corina Machado and said Machado when he met Rodriguez, but that was not the case. He was very clear in what he said. It does not look good. He really sort of dismissed her and her role in Venezuela. That doesn't mean she's completely out of the game. She still has a lot of support in Washington. And if this works towards elections at some point, that she would clearly have a role in that. So it's not over for her, but it doesn't look good in the short term. That's for sure.
I think a lot of people are wondering how the US can run the country if it doesn't put boots on the ground. Is that the most likely scenario?
I don't think it can run the country with boots on the ground. So either Trump is going to end up declaring victory and saying, "Oh, that we're doing a great job there," and Delcy Rodriguez is going to keep him satisfied by keeping oil flowing and allowing American companies in, or they're going to end up with boots on the ground. Because what happens in this kind of situation, if you have a vacuum of power, somebody in a resource-rich country like Venezuela, somebody's going to step in, and if Trump starts to see China and Russia stepping in, well, then we'll probably see the U.S. with boots on the ground. And, it's really hard to avoid that in this kind of situation. If you break it, you own it, as the saying goes. And so, and if you don't own it, someone else is going to own it. And so I think we could well see boots on the ground in the future. That is a possibility.
Professor David Smilde, thank you so much for joining us on the programme. And thank you at home for watching Around the
Thank
World
you.
on France 24. Stay with us, there's more coming up.